for that one-on-one live interview. Sophia Wanuna is joining me on the other side. Over to you, Sophia.
A competitive election. It's all over now, and it's down to governance. Exit the campaigns, enter governance. That's the real work. And we have him with us for that conversation. Remember, you can tweet me at Sophia Wanuna. Many of you already have your questions. I've listed and noted them down. We'll be putting some of them to the DP this evening. Your Excellency, once again, we thank you for making time for us, honoring our request for this conversation. It's the first live interview you're doing since you took the position substantively, so we don't take it for granted that you granted us that opportunity. So let's begin with where we left it after we did our intro a little bit earlier, and we're saying that now President William Ruto is away in the UK. Subsequently, he'll travel to the United Nations General Assembly in New York. So in essence, you are in charge. Is there anything that changes at the point you're acting or holding fort when he's out of the country?
No, the president is away in the UK, then he'll be in New York, but he's in charge of the country. I'm not acting as such, I'm just holding forth so that I deal with the small domains that may crop up in his absence. We are in touch, and he has arrived safely, and King Charles III is hosting a reception for world leaders and other people to celebrate the life of Queen Elizabeth, and tomorrow he'll attend the funeral of the Queen before he heads out to the New York, where he'll get an opportunity to make his maiden, speech to the world at the United Nations General Assembly. He'll hold several bilaterals on the sidelines with the Secretary General of the United Nations, with the Secretary of State Antony Blinken. He'll have an opportunity to host American business leaders, and on Wednesday he'll be hosted by President Joe Biden, which is a big diplomatic achievement that hardly a week after being sworn in, our new president is being hosted by the leader of the world's largest democracy, and indeed it's an affirmation that his election was above board. It was democratic. And if you look at even the inauguration, we had 20 heads of state from across Africa, and more than 45 high-power delegations from across the world. Is that the international community has affirmed and accepted the election of Dr. William Ruto as the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya. And the tour of duty is very, very important. One of the sessions is on the drought for the Horn of Africa, and we are having a serious drought in this country, and in the rest of the Horn of Africa because of climate change, and that session is very, very important. Indeed, we had a very difficult decision whether President William Ruto should travel out of the country, barely 3-4 days after being sworn in. But after weighing the pros and cons and the importance of going to the United Nations General Assembly, he was of the opinion that it is a very important trip. Again, our history with Queen Elizabeth. She became queen in this country. And our traditional relationship with the United Kingdom. We have had a very, very strong relationship, spanning over almost 6 decades. And therefore, it became very necessary that despite the fact that he has a lot to do here at home, it was necessary for him to go to the UK and later on proceed to New York for that very, very important conference.
Yeah, so you must have seen some of those questions Kenyans were raising, which you have responded to. Let's come back home and trace it back 5 days ago, because it has been 5 days since you took oath of office at Kasarani. Huge ceremony there. I remember the capacity, 60,000 by 5 a.m. people were seated, and you had all of these invited guests. A little bit about your speech, perhaps, and it's good that part of what you said, outside of saying freedom is here, is that you're welcoming Kenyans and everyone to criticize the government.
Absolutely.
As you go about your work. And there are those who felt that your speech did not rise to that occasion and moment in that there was a lot of still hitting back at the exiting administration at the time. Of course, now former President Uhuru Kenyatta was seated there, but going back to all of the ills that you had time over and over again during the campaign spoke to, but that in this occasion where you have taken oath of office, you are now in power, whether it was then the time to still go back to those things as opposed to speak to what you promised and how you intend to roll that out. So what do you tell those who say it did not meet that moment?
Thank you, Sophia. You know, the problem we have with this country is that many Kenyans are allergic to the truth. And they would rather bury their heads in the sand and confront the truth. That was a very momentous occasion. And there was an air of freedom. And it was necessary to indeed confirm to the people of Kenya that they are free. You know, I don't know whether you are aware of the old adage about the chicken that is normally tied for a long time. And when it's untied, it doesn't know that it's indeed free. Someone needs to kick the chicken.
So you're saying in that moment you still were in campaign mode?
Many Kenyans were not believing that freedom is here. And as a leader, it was my responsibility to announce to the people of Kenya that freedom is here. You know, Sophia, for the last 5 years, Kenya had turned into a police state. And it was necessary to be very truthful to the people of Kenya and tell them that never again will the people of Kenya feel so stifled that they cannot breathe. It was necessary.
To your point, is you sold that as a messaging. Seeing that you won the election, it means majority of those you sold that to bought it and elected you into office. So here you are, you've taken oath of office. So is there a need to still go back to that?
Oh yes, you know, Sophia, the truth is sacred and it must be said. When I say that we have inherited a dilapidated economy, I know many people who are in the previous administration who don't like it, but that is the truth.
All right.
And many people, including the outgoing administration, had a problem with me because of being a truthful leader who speaks the truth and is mind from his heart. And that will inform my leadership for the next 5 years. I will be very truthful to the people of Kenya because it's important that you speak truthfully and you don't, hide things from the people of Kenya when you are a leader.
Fair enough.
So I needed to tell the people of Kenya that we made many promises and we are going to keep those promises.
Okay.
But I was asking for patience on their part because on starting to have meetings with officials from the Treasury, the situation was worse than we had anticipated. And the people of Kenya needed to know that we have found coffers that are empty and we can move, and we need to figure out how to start moving so that the country doesn't get into an economic shutdown. And that truth, bitter as it is to the outgoing administration, needed to be said. I needed to tell the people of Kenya on behalf of my boss, President William Ruto, and assure them, because it was important on such an important day, because freedom is in the Constitution, that our administration will never, I repeat, will never use the criminal justice system to manage politics. We shall manage politics the conventional way, through engagement, persuasion, reaching out, consensus, concurrence, but we shall never unleash state agencies against those opposed to our programs and to our policies. And I went ahead to assure even those who are against us, even those who hold contrary views from the ones that we hold, to give them an assurance that they are free to hold us to account, they are free to challenge us on our promises, they are free to challenge us on our mode of governance without any fear of reprisals, that we shall set the criminal justice system against them. And it was important.
Yeah, and on that point that, and you've talked about that before, state agencies, the criminal justice system, from where you sit being abused in the arena of politics. Something else you said when you were in Mombasa, I believe your first official duty in the governor's and deputy governor's induction, and you spoke to the DCI should stay in Kiambu Road, and in essence you're again following up on that point that they shouldn't be going into offices and extortionist is what you alleged. But that could also be interpreted as now also being seen to interfere or insulate or protect these governors or other public officers. Do you see that it could also be seen from a different...
Not at all. Extortion is a crime.
And it should be reported.
What has been happening, Sophia, you should listen to public officials. It's a sad story. Public officials are crying to us, telling us harrowing experiences at the hands of detectives who came in droves into government offices under the guise of fighting graft, but were perpetuating graft by threatening public officials with arrest on Friday and demanding huge bribes.
Why are these public officials not reporting these individuals? Because if you have nothing to hide, if someone comes here and they have nothing to hide, they're telling you, unless then you have something to hide, others will report this other individual.
Because of here, there was no freedom. There was a police state. You are reporting to who? These are the people who are working on you. There was nobody to report to. The only people who could talk about ourselves. Public servants were demoralized. They were demotivated. They were extorted money. We talked to many. They had to take loans from circles to give detectives. And I did not say that Kiambu, the DCI should go to Kiambu Road per se. What I said is that junior civil servants, junior DCI officers, under the guise of fighting graft, took it upon themselves to go to every government office and hang around there, creating a very toxic environment for service delivery. They would be there when tenders are being opened, when they are not members of the tender opening committee. They would even storm into where tenders are being evaluated. They would go to the cash office and demand to see the role that is paying people. They would demand to be informed on who is being paid how much and for what reason.
In a country where the president in the past has told us we are losing 2 billion shillings a day.
Well, the folly of it is that even after all that presence, nobody was arrested and taken to court. All that happened is that they extorted money from public servants. And that is why, Sophia, and that is where we are coming from. We cannot have a fearful public service. We cannot have a civil service that is under intimidation. We cannot have an atmosphere where there is no service delivery. You remember, on the 1st of June 2019, our retired President Uhuru Kenyatta, in Narok during Mashujaa Day, gave a direction that all pending bills must be paid. After that, principal secretaries refused to pay the bills because they said they would pay the bills and then DCI officers will be all over, arrest them on Friday, take them to court when they don't know how those bills were incurred because they were not in office by then. And most of them demanded that the government payment voucher, a space be created in the voucher for the DCI to sign, and EACC and the DPP, so that they feel safe. Because there was a tendency of arresting public officials on Friday on flimsy grounds without evidence.
And those that were to be paid were the ones that had been audited, cleared, that had no questions, queries or issues.
But even after they had been audited, in fact, let me tell you what was happening. Public officials found a way of not paying for fear of persecution and intimidation and extortion. Let me explain to you what they were doing. Now they are telling us a principal secretary confronted by pending bills would form a verification committee to verify the bills. It will take 2 months. They are verified and he is told he can pay. But because he doesn't want to pay because of fear, he would form another committee called validation committee. It will take another 2 months. After they are validated and they are told they can pay, he would ask the internal auditor to look into it and give him an opinion. That will take another 2 months. After the internal auditor has given a clean bill of health that you can pay, he would say that he wants the external auditors from Treasury to come and audit. That would take another 2 months. After the external auditor, he would say he wants cabinet approval. The financial year is over and the bill is carried forward to the following year.
So tell us now.
That is how. That is how, Sophia.
It?
That is how, Sophia. Businessmen are owed more than 500 billion.
True.
And people who did work for government are being auctioned every day.
How will your
If you look at one of the leading dailies,
yes,
from page 34 to 44, 10 pages is full of auctions.
We hear you,
and
Your
those
Excellency.
auctions are about people who supplied goods to government and they have never been paid. Because we allowed DCI officers to run government when they have no capacity to run government. And they went everywhere in every office, created fear, extorted people, and brought the government to a halt.
And Your Excellency,
and work stopped going on. That is why I'm saying.
Yeah.
That is why I was assuring the governors. If there is an investigation in your county, let the DCI send officers under a senior officer so that the officers do not abuse the opportunity to visit a novice, to intimidate people and extort people, so that there is a level of responsibility. All I was saying is that if you said a senior officer, say like a senior superintendent of police, there is least likelihood a senior superintendent of police would take advantage of the situation to extort money from public officials and create fear and stop service delivery.
All right.
So all I am calling upon is order in DCI.
Yeah.
I'm saying all the officers all over government threatening public officials, demanding money from them, interfering with the tendering process, interfering with the payment system. Go back to where you belong, and if there is an issue, let a small team with a specific instruction or mandate to investigate a particular crime go and investigate that crime. And if there is evidence, take it to the DPP, and those people are taken to court.
And on that point, Your Excellency, before we move to the next thing, because it's a crucial one, there are many Kenyans watching tonight. Pending bills continue to hurt ordinary Mwananchi. They've done the work, they still have not been paid. What is this administration going to do? When will we start seeing these pending bills cleared?
Well, to start with, is that when money is available, because right now there isn't money, we have inherited a 500 billion debt for public bills, and we don't want to borrow money. Because what we are saying, Sophia, and that is why we said we can't have the subsidy for fuel. When you are in a hole, the first thing you do, if you are somebody who knows what you are doing, you stop digging, and then you figure out how to get out. But you cannot be in a hole and you continue digging. We are having a 10 trillion public debt. You cannot borrow to subsidize consumption, because that is digging the hole deeper. You need to stop digging, stop borrowing to subsidize consumption, and figure out how to get out of the hole. So we are looking at the possibility, and we have discussed with the Treasury on how to create a bond to raise money to pay the pending bills. And if that is successful, and I'm sure it will succeed, if we inject 500 billion and pay all the people with pending bills, that will be an economic stimulus intervention. Money will circulate in the economy, and the ripple effect will be felt by everybody. Again, all the stored projects where contractors have stopped working because of non-payment, all the projects that are stored will get back and continue. The net effect is that all the people who are working on these projects will get employment, and that will turn around the economy. Again, in this case, principal secretaries, accountants, procurement officers, chief finance officers will pay without fear after they verify the pending bills. They should go ahead and verify, and they should not have too many committees now. It is not necessary anymore. They just need to have one committee, a verification committee, and let the internal auditors check. Once the internal auditors say that these bills were properly incurred and they should be charged to public funds, Let the people supposed to pay go ahead and pay.
All right.
There will be no more extortion. There will be no more harassment. There will be no more intimidation of government officers by detectives who are trying to make money, who are perpetuating graft when they are purporting to fight graft.
And you've brought up the issue of the fuel. Let's talk about that because it's a big one. The prices have gone up, and as we know, once fuel prices go up, the ripple effect is that then cost of living equally, because many commodities you see an increase in price. And I want us to first go back to the campaign rhetoric and messaging, because is that then where the folly of our politics lies? Because you went out and told your supporters and Kenyans, as you sought votes, vote for us and the cost of living will come down.
Yes,
vote
absolutely.
for us and fuel come down unga.
Absolutely.
But today you are having to explain to Kenyans, before it comes down, things are going to be a bit painful.
It will come down, but it needs to come down forever. We don't want quick fixes. I have told you, Sophia, when you are in a hole, you don't continue digging. You stop digging and then figure out how to get out. We need a sustainable solution. Subsidizing consumption is not sustainable. It's actually foolish. You cannot borrow money to subsidize consumption. What we have agreed to do, and our president, in his pragmatic style of leadership, has given the way forward. We subsidize production. Once we subsidize production, and this is coming now, already 1.4 million bags of fertilizer are in the high seas. Once people get fertilizer that they can afford and increase their yield, it will bring down the cost of maize, and automatically it will bring down the cost of unga. But if you say you subsidize 100 shillings, the subsidies is so far done, yeah, at 20 billion a month. We are talking of 240 billion a year. That is equivalent to the entire annual development budget for the whole country. What that means is that you subsidize for 1 year and stop all development activities. Then after that, what happens next?
So
we are saying, let us deal with the problem in a pragmatic manner and get a solution that will last. Let us do something that is sustainable.
Which what
and
you're also telling
is,
Kenyans,
is agriculture.
there will be some painful moments.
And very, very short-lived. Very, very short-lived.
But how do you guarantee short-lived? Because
short-lived,
for instance,
because even looking at the trends, even looking at the trends, it is clear after a lot of analysis that the prices of fuel will stabilize by the end of this year, which is a good thing for us. But most important,
which trend is informing that? Because next month, for instance,
I'm saying that the trend, the way it is going, there's a lot of analysis. I don't have the figures here. The analysis that have been done, we have a lot of petroleum experts and economists, and a lot of analysis has been done. And the brief we are getting is that going forward, is that the prices will stabilize, hopefully by the end of the year. But again, the most important thing is the interventions in the agricultural sector to subsidize production so that we bring the cost of unga down. And we add money into people's pockets so that they have higher purchasing power.
Yeah.
Because if we bring down the cost of maize production, wheat production, mineral production, tea production, and the farmers get a higher return, they have a better purchasing power. That means that they will be able to deal with escalating food prices with a better purchasing power. So what we have done is what you call a win-win situation. Let us come up with a solution that is practical and that is sustainable, because we don't want also to cheat our people. I've told you a lot of Kenyans.
But that's what you should have been telling them during the campaigns,
we told them
yes, that elect us, but when we come in, because of how badly this country
we didn't know how bad it was.
The deputy president before was in this
we
government.
Were saying, no, he wasn't. William Ruto was not part of this government.
The
Sophia.
state of our economy was
Sophia,
known. That is not something,
but the extent,
even by myself.
The extent, we knew the economy is doing badly, but the extent was not known to us because Treasury kept on giving figures that are not accurate. It's only when we called the CS Treasury and all the technocrats in Treasury and demanded the balance sheet for the country. we realized how badly we are. And we had to make tough decisions.
But this is the thing, you've said something that the trends are showing, for instance, again, I go back to fuel, that things will change, they'll stabilize. But that sounds like, Bonadipi, then you're relying on forces not within your control. Let me finish, because
not at all.
We then don't know what happens out there, and that then exposes us to the shocks.
We are not relying on the forces, we are not in control.
So what
we are in
is
control,
specific?
We are in control of increasing production to make food cheaper. That's when we are in control. So we are saying, even in the worst case scenario, in the worst case scenario, that the prices do not stabilize by the end of the year, by making interventions in the agricultural sector, producing more cheaply, and making cost of food cheaper, will have succeeded. Because what will mean is that if the cost of food gets cheaper, you have some little more coins to buy fuel. So you cannot say that we are relying on third parties. No, we have a very proactive and pragmatic strategy on how to make interventions that are sustainable by intervening in agricultural production.
Yeah.
And that is the way to go for this country. And I can tell you, right now we have fertilizer in Mombasa for the tea farmers. Where they were buying fertilizer at 7,000, now they'll buy at 3,500. That saving of 3,500, a farmer will be able to buy some fuel.
And I agree, I hear you.
You agree?
To the
you have, by making that intervention,
yes,
and making a saving of 3,500 per 50 kilogram bag of fertilizer, you have left the farmer with an extra 3,500 that he did not have. And that enables that farmer to make some intervention in matters fuel.
Because one of the things that you put on your manifesto regarding this is that Kenya Kwanza would develop a legal framework, the William Ruto-led government, to ring-fence fuel stabilization fund. But here's the thing, there's a bill in Parliament, perhaps gathering dust, on petroleum products and taxes, Bill 2021. Reduce VAT in petroleum products. This eases the cost of living. Would it be something you'd consider, now that you're in government, that come in and say, there's numerous layers of taxation around petroleum products? This bill was seeking to reduce the kind of taxation we are seeing there. Is it something this administration...
Sophia, give it to us. We have 5 days in office. 5 days only. We are trying to undo a mess of 5 years in 5 days. What we are saying, we had a very serious caucus with members of the National Assembly and the Senate. Because most of those interventions is the preserve of Parliament. We'll make proposals as the executive, but it is Parliament to debate and analyze and make a decision. And we engaged our members. Agreeably, there's too much taxation on fuel. And that is something that we have put on the table for our members of Parliament.
Push for that.
We are discussing. Yes, taxation is too high, and but we cannot reduce it as the executive because we don't want impunity. That has to go through Parliament. Parliament has not even been convened, and that is why I'm saying you need to give us the benefit of doubt. We have 5 days in office. Parliament has not met. Those reductions can only be effected by the National Assembly. Parliament needs to meet and start transacting business, and then we put it before the National Assembly for consideration.
But from where you see the position of the government to the extent of subsidies on fuel, that is not something we'll be seeing this administration. Even if things get worse, increase of prices, you will not.
I want to confirm to the people of Kenya that it is foolish to do subsidy on consumption because it's not sustainable. And we want to be truthful to our people. We shall do subsidy on production, and ultimately that will benefit the consumer. That is the way to go. You must think outside the box, and you must look at a long-term strategy. You must look at a sustainable intervention. You can't do quick fixes. That subsidy on unga was for elections. It was for helping Azimio. And the folly of it all is that even that unga for 100 shillings was not available in the market. And these people are asking us for 4 billion to pay the suppliers for that unga that never reached the market. It was not there. And that was just a conduit of people to do politics and make money. And there is no even way of checking. in terms of transparency and accountability of that exercise, it's not possible. Even this one for fuel, by the way, that intervention is only 5 companies. And if you interrogate, you will find the vested interest. In fact, when we made that decision, at the current residence of the then Deputy President, many people came calling, asking us to rethink our decision. And those were people, some of them are not oil marketers. Yeah, the ones who came knocking. Because it was not just about giving those people some relief. You know, there was much more to it. We don't want to go into that. We are saying we don't think. President William Ruto and his team do not think that it is feasible, that it is prudent, that it is wise to subsidize anything on consumption, because it cannot be sustained.
Even if the prices spiral out of control?
They are not. These things with a pragmatic approach to production.
All right.
Those are things of the past, Sophia.
So
What we're asking the people of Kenya is to give us a chance.
Yeah.
Allow us some little bit of time. We are only 5 days old in office. And already we have made very serious, pragmatic steps to restore this economy and ultimately restore the dignity of the Kenyan people.
And for the fertilizer subsidy, the concern that this would end up benefiting the wealthy farmers, how is it you're ensuring that there's structures put in place so that at the end of the day, it's the poor farmer that is benefiting?
I want to assure our farmers across the country that we are seized of that matter. That ourselves don't just sit in Nairobi. We are bottom-up people. We know these things because we have seen them happen. We are grassroots people. And again, we are also in touch. Even myself today as Deputy President, I'm still picking calls from the village. And I'm in touch with many people. I want to assure the people of Kenya that we have made very elaborate and foolproof arrangements to make sure that this fertilizer is available to every farmer and will not be a preserve of the rich and the wealthy. It will go to all farmers and it will reach every farmer who has a need to get fertilizer at a reasonable price to be able to boost their yields and double or triple their production. So
the cheap fertilizer you're talking about that's coming in, where is it coming from?
I'm not sure of the real country, but I am aware that some fertilizer is the high seas, and some of it is already in Mombasa, and the people of KTD and the tea farmers are actually pricing up to go and collect this fertilizer and give it to the farmers.
Right. Yeah. Because one of the things that has risen from also what we witnessed, you talked about a lot of what you were able to do, hit the ground running. We saw the appointment of the judges, the swearing in subsequently. But one of the things is around what we witnessed around the Sahrawi country, SADR. And one of the things that, there was a tweet put out by the president saying that Kenya rescinds its recognition of Sahrawi state and initiates steps to wind down the entity's presence in Kenya. This is after the president, the head of that state, attended the inauguration. And of course, after the invitation of Kenya, then there's this tweet, which was subsequently deleted, and no explanation. I'll come to why I'm linking the two. But first, to that point, what happened, sir? Because
I think, Sophia, a clarification has already been made. The position of our great republic is that of the AU and that of the United Nations. And I like to leave that matter that way because the clarification has been made.
But then why would an administration go ahead of itself on such a crucial matter?
Well, Sophia, this was an administration in transition, one day in office.
What was the hurry, though?
Well, we had many visitors, there were so many delegations, and communications had to be made. But the most important thing is that the official position is there. A clarification has been made. Our position as a country is that of the United Nations and that of the African Union.
because I'm moving on, but before I do, when such a blunder, a flop is made so early on, then the people of Kenya will sit back and wonder, will decisions be made and then clarifications come thereafter? Will there be think-through on these matters?
A clarification has been made by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I think that that's okay. That's
so the
fine.
Background story, then let's take the conversation forward, is on that Morocco, that Kenya is looking to strengthen trade and other areas in, is also where this fertilizer, because remember Morocco is one of the companies, the world largest distributor of fertilizer. In fact, Nigeria at some point was able to bring its cost down from 5,000 to 1,000 because of that bilateral engagement and working with them. And so it was seen at the point this decision then was being made to cut ties because of the issues Morocco has with SADR, and because of looking to then lock a deal with Morocco, cut off this other relationship, and then things turned out not to be the way they are. But bottom line is, Morocco is where we're looking, of course, to work with very closely because, as I said, huge distributor when it comes to fertilizer.
Sophia, let's settle that a clarification has been made.
We've moved on. We are not on fertilizer.
I'm just saying.
Yes.
Let's talk about.
We're also just emphasizing the point that we cannot run away from the fact that it happens.
The source of fertilizer is neither here nor there. What is important is that we get fertilizer.
Important the source is.
What is important is that we get fertilizer at an affordable price. That is what the farmer wants to know. I don't think the farmer is really interested in international politics and trade politics around the world.
Why it's important, sir, if I may,
with
due respect. In 2017, if you remember, the Director of Public Prosecution took to court and brought charges of attempted murder against officers of KEBS, including the MD at the time. And this was over fertilizer, about 5.8 million kilograms coming from Morocco. Another time, it had been tested, failed the test. Second test was done, failed the test in terms of standard, being up to standard, but was still released to that farmer you're talking about. So it's not in vain to ask, it's because then the farmer will say, okay, if we're doing all of these things, then it's due diligence, because you're seeing even the kind of charges at the time that came up. So source is important because then there's all of these processes, checks and balances for the same farmer to protect them. Because at the point that failed all of these standards, and hence the conversation, and whether are we going to jump onto something, but are we ensuring all of the checks have checked out in essence?
All goods and commodities that are coming to Mombasa or other points of entry are subjected to various tests by the various agencies, including KEBS. I have no information that has been ignored or not done. I am aware that the fertilizer has gone through the necessary and mandatory inspection and given a clean bill of health, and is good for our farmers.
Okay. It's very important that information, just to set the record straight for those who may look back at what happened at the time. But going forward, you've talked about electricity, you've talked about fuel and the subsidies around farmers, but electricity as well. You know, the prices have gone up. So it is becoming more and more painful. You have KRA, inflation adjustment. So you'll be seeing excise duty go up by 6.3% starting October. So the cost of living, contrary to what you told Kenyans, is going up.
But Sophia, did you expect us to bring the cost of living in 5 days' time? Let's be fair to each other.
Correct.
5 days.
That is fair.
Whoever
came would have found this mess.
We have made very practical steps.
Right.
Of bring the cost of living down within a few days, and all we're asking is some time to be able to achieve our intervention strategy, and it's on course. And you'll have an opportunity to ask me about it, within 100 days, and ask me what happened. Okay. And we are doing fine. We have just come, and we have had so many meetings, and you are aware, of course, we haven't even put up our own government into place. We are working with officials of the outgoing regime, and there are many issues it's not as easy or as smooth. You know, it's a bit difficult. You know, and we want to be given time. When the president comes back from the United Nations General Assembly, he'll have time to craft and announce his government. The cabinet secretaries and principal secretaries will be taken to parliament for vetting. That will take a bit of time. You know, we are looking at another 3-4 weeks to have a government up and running. And then you can ask us questions. So we have a cabinet in place. Right now we just have the president and the deputy president. Sophia, you know, in fact, you must give us credit that within that time, we have made several serious, we have sworn in judges, we have given financial autonomy to the Inspector General of Police. We are looking at CBC, and we have, you know, met the Judicial Service Commission. We have agreed that we need to give them more money so that we can unlock the backlog of cases that have made, you know, delivery of justice to be a nightmare in Kenya. And you know, Sophia, I saw some people from Azimio accusing us that we are giving judges money so that we bribe them. You know, I'm ashamed that people who say they fought for secular liberation have a problem with an independent judiciary. One of the ways to make the judiciary fully independent is to give it financial autonomy and give it sufficient funds. The judiciary have been allocated this year 18 billion. The Chief Justice and the Chief Registrar of the High Court has told us that for them to deliver justice properly and deal with the backlog of cases by employing more people, by building more courts, they need 28 billion a year. What we have done, because the country is in a difficult situation, we have agreed on a plan for 5 years that every year we add them 2 billion. So effectively, in 5 years, we'll top up to 28 billion. Why we must do this, Sophia? First and foremost, justice delayed is justice denied. Number two, succession cases that have been in court for years is tying billions of shillings that would benefit this economy, because money left behind by deceased persons cannot be released because the cases have not been adjudicated. That would free billions of Kenya shillings to the economy. Number two, criminal cases pending in court for years, where people have paid cash bail. Billions of Kenya shillings is in court, held by the courts, awaiting the hearing and determination of criminal cases. We need to free that money into the economy. That is why we are persuaded, other than making sure that the judiciary is fully independent, we also need to empower the judiciary to enable them deliver justice in good time, so that people can get justice in good time, and also we free the billions of shillings being held in succession cases and in cash bills deposited in court by people who have various cases pending before courts. And that is something I can tell you, that simple act of letting the judiciary know that the executive will let them work freely is working magic. The judiciary now is motivated, and they have given us an assurance that with the kind of support that we are giving them, with the kind of commitment we are showing, they are going to speed up the hearing of these cases. As of now, the Chief Justice has set up courts across the country to dispense with all the election petitions within 6 months. The kind of society we are looking at, Sophia, William Ruto and I, is a situation where justice is delivered like the way the Supreme Court delivers the presidential contest. And a case is filed, and in a matter of days, the matter is determined and dispensed with. That is what everybody would want. And I want to assure the people of Kenya that President William Ruto and ourselves are committed to empower independent institutions.
And
this is a country of the rule of law.
Yeah.
And the absence of the rule of law is anarchy. is chaos.
That is true.
And we cannot have a country of impunity. Those judges were appointed 3 years ago, and because of impunity, they were not appointed. Yet nobody had filed a petition challenging their suitability to occupy office as judges for the last 3 years, because those judges were serving. If they had integrity issues that had any substance, the president or anybody else had an opportunity to institute their removal from office.
Correct.
But you cannot say people have integrity issues. 3 years down the line, you do nothing about it. There is a spelled out procedure that is very clear on how to deal with such issues. You just refuse to appoint them. You say they have integrity issues, and you don't do anything against it. It's impunity. And that is why President William Ruto decided to live to his word and his oath of office to protect and uphold the Constitution. And I want to tell you, Sophia, the people of Kenya should be very happy with President William Ruto. He genuinely believes in the rule of law.
Right.
He believes in constitutionalism. He believes in independent institutions. And I want to tell the people of Kenya, they are going to enjoy their freedom.
However, there are those, when you talk about the rule of law, and Your Excellency, you talked about it as being a witch hunt, the criminal justice system being used against you when you have a seizure of your funds, 200 million of the matter that is before court. And it's not lost on Kenyans. They remember you saying that upon ascending to office, if you win, all of these matters will disappear, your money will be returned back to
I'm in power.
What do you tell them today? Because you are now in power, and they remember you
I'm
said
in power, Sophia.
those accounts, you'd have your money back.
I'm in power.
That speaks to interference.
I'm in power. No money has been returned to me, and I've not asked for it.
5 days, you reminded me earlier. Maybe it's coming in the next 10 days.
I'm saying the matter is before the Court of Appeal. It will go through due process. And I'm sure, I have no doubt in my mind, that
and then you throw that party.
I have no problem. Justice will be delivered.
Okay.
I have charges against me, trumped up charges pending before court. Nobody has dropped those charges. They'll go the full hog. And ultimately, because I believe in due process, and we all believe in due process, the courts will pronounce themselves and will accept the verdict of the courts, provided we are given an opportunity to exhaust the various mechanisms as provided for by the Constitution.
Right.
I have not gone to demand my money. I have not gone to say terminate the cases. Let the full, the whole process, go through. And that's what we are saying.
Yeah.
Let everybody do his part, as we do our part, and our commitment to upholding the rule of law is beyond question. Ourselves,
and we'll hold you to
we
that.
are beneficiaries of independent institutions.
And
we are beneficiaries of the rule of law.
Correct.
We are victims of impunity. We are victims of misuse of state agencies. We are best placed, and let me tell you, sometimes I sleep here, and when I wake up in the morning, and I think what has gone through, what I and William Ruto have faced, and sometimes I say, God works in miraculous ways. Probably God, in his wisdom and in his mercy, knew that William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua would one day be president and deputy president, and to make sure that they will never abuse power and use power, state power, against their opponents, made them be subjected to misuse of power, so that they know that it is wrong, it is immoral, it is inhuman to abuse power bestowed on you on behalf of the people to persecute other people.
Right.
Power must be exercised on behalf of the people.
You mentioned
William Ruto and I are better leaders today because we will never, Sophia, pick a phone and tell DCI, go after Sophia because she has disagreed with me. We will never do it because it is wrong, it is inhuman, it is immoral.
Right.
Let independent institutions carry out their duties independently. William Ruto and I will never talk to a judge to rule a matter either this way or that way.
Okay.
William Ruto and I will never look for the DPP to ask him fix so and so. We will never ask police to go and arrest our opponents on a Friday so we punish them. We will never do that. Ours is the exact opposite. is empowering independent institutions
to do their
give
work.
more money to the judiciary, allow the police to have their financial autonomy to do their work. And Sophia, where would William Ruto and I get time to interfere with their freedom?
You have made your point.
Our hands are full.
Yes.
Our interest is full. We must fix the economy. That is our priority. And we are clear in our mind that we cannot have time for sideshows and for doing anything else outside fixing the economy and restoring the dignity of the Kenyan people.
And you've talked extensively about the judiciary and its independence and funding of it, and even mentioned the remarks that we had from the former Prime Minister, Azimio leader Raila Odinga. He has said there needs to be, using the language in fact you were using during the campaigns, and we'll get to the state capture, saying that there's state capture when it comes to judiciary. He talked about the same on IEBC. I saw you in Mombasa, I think it was at the airport or the lounge at some point, had a discussion. Perhaps let's start there. What were you discussing?
No. I ran into Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, former Prime Minister, and by any definition, a senior citizen of this country. And we are not enemies. We are not. Disagreeing politically is not enmity. It is this outgoing administration that made political differences to be enmity. Raila Odinga and I know each other. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, he came to my home to bury my late brother, the late Governor Derito Gachagua. That is not something I take lightly. So when we bumped each other at the airport, we went and sat at the VIP lodge, and we had a tete-a-tete, and we had a nice time.
Anything about?
Nothing. We just talked about our country. We talked about the elections that are over, and I asked him, I requested him with a lot of humility, because he's much older than me. He's been more experienced than I am. And I talked to him with a lot of respect, and I pleaded with him to take up his role and lead his troops to keep us in check and hold us to account, because we want to succeed. And let me tell you, Sophia, an effective opposition is good for any country. Why we have a problem in this country for the last 5 years? There was no opposition. We had a mongrel of a government. You don't know who is opposition, who is government. It was so a mix-up. And that is why things went out of their way. That is why we have empty coffers.
So what did he say?
Because there was nobody to ask any question.
So what did he say
to you? No, he said he is up to the task. He has done it before. And he told me, he'll keep us in check very vigorously. And I said that is as it should be. And I want to say, and I want to ask everybody in this country, the elections are over. Let us respect each other. Let us work together for this country. The right honorable former Prime Minister is a Kenyan, a senior citizen. Our government will accord him due respect and will give him all the perks that he is entitled to as a former Prime Minister. He'll get his security, he'll get his movement, he'll be accorded status at all airports. He'll use the VIP lodges. And we have no intention to muzzle the opposition. We have no intention to harass the opposition. We want a loyal opposition, and I urge the opposition to be vibrant.
And yet some of their members are already shaking hands with you.
The
president refused or said there would not be a handshake between him and Raila Odinga. However, these handshakes are happening at a smaller level, which is also then taking away from opposition.
Let's bring you to speed. Those guys are looking for us. Most characters who are in Azimio were not there by choice. They were intimidated by DCI, by KRI, by EACC, by president, by who to go to Azimio. Now that Azimio no longer holds the instruments of coercing people to belong to Azimio, they are running away from Azimio.
But you stayed in Kenya Kwanza. Many stayed despite all those challenges. These people who are coming
Sophia,
last minute after this victory.
This country, the Constitution is supreme. It guarantees the right to freedom of association. We cannot stop people from leaving Azimio and coming to us. We are not looking for them.
So you're not emasculating the opposition?
We are not. What we are saying is that most of these people, last night I had 3 Jubilee MPs here in this room, and they took me through the harrowing experiences they underwent as they were coerced to go to Azimio, and they were threatened by KRI, you know, and they had no choice. Most of them don't have the kind of mental that I have. You know, us, we didn't care. You know, some of us in Chuma Zamani, we are children of freedom fighters. Our parents were in the forest. What we are seeing is a Christmas party compared to what our parents went through. But not everybody, Sophia, is like Rigathi Gachagua. Not everybody has the mettle to withstand state brutality and persecution. Many people in Azimio, and I can tell you, Azimio will crumble like the house of cards because it was crafted and sustained using instruments of fear and persecution. So many people are not in Azimio because of their own free will. They were coerced to go to Azimio. And what has happened is that as we have taken government, the instruments of coercion, the instruments of intimidation are no longer in the hands of anybody in Azimio. So people now feel free, and they are free to engage and associate freely with whoever they want.
So on this House leadership that is now a matter, you discussed at the PG in Naivasha, Azimio as well discussed it. As it stands on paper, as much as this, there are all those that have moved over from Azimio to Kenya Kwanza. On paper, by the election, because it's Azimio coalition party, the agreement signed and deposited with the Register of Political Parties. I see you're laughing because you're like, yeah, political parties in Kenya still hold that for the exit clause, they cannot until 3 months after the election.
I want to bring you to speed.
Please do.
You are lost, my dear.
I am not. Find me. Here we are.
To start with,
yes.
If Azimio had the majority, they would not have lost the speaker's position. Majority is numbers. They would have voted and won, but they did not win. They lost very badly.
Politically, you have the numbers.
Number two. Not politically. Number two.
On paper is what we're talking about.
Number two, there are two kind of coalitions.
Correct.
A coalition party and a coalition of political parties.
Correct.
Azimio la Umoja is not a coalition of parties. It's a coalition party.
Correct.
Azimio la Umoja, the coalition party by law, does not have a single member of parliament in the National Assembly. So they are the minority. They don't even have a single member. They are not a coalition of parties. They cannot say, no, we are Azimio with the Jubilee, with who? No. They registered as a coalition party. And I want you to go and study. Once you study, you'll know that the argument is free for us. And is dead on arrival because they registered Azimio as a coalition party.
Azimio One Kenya coalition
whatever.
Party.
Yeah,
and all these parties
is a coalition,
are within
listen.
Yes.
It's a coalition party. There is a provision for coalition of parties.
Yes.
Kenya Kwanza is a coalition of parties. Azimio is a coalition party. They had only one candidate, the presidential candidate. They have no single MCA, no single member of parliament, no single senator. Their argument is dead on arrival. It's a waste of time. And you'll tell me when the matter comes to parliament, the interpretation of the law, they don't have a single member of parliament. There's nothing like Azimio in the National Assembly, in the Senate. There is no such, there is nothing because they don't have a single senator, they don't have a single member of parliament.
All right. Let's talk about something that many people are waiting to see. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, formation of government. What should Kenyans, perhaps let's start there, expect of the Ruto-Rigathi cabinet?
The Ruto, it's actually a Ruto cabinet, it's not Ruto-Rigathi. We are not having a divided government. The government that we have belongs, the head of that government is Dr. William Ruto. Rigathi Gachagua is his principal assistant. It's his government. But we help him. We'll have a cabinet that has the capacity to deliver. The various placements that will be done will be rationalized. There'll be a nexus between the appointee and the docket. Right? You get it? And
you mean experienced technocrats type?
Experience, passion to serve, commitment,
clean hands,
loyalty. I know there are many, some multifaceted of factors. When you form a government, you look at many things. Of course, you look at gender balance, you look at regional balance.
But here it's not just gender balance. You promised 50-50, so that's still on course.
It's on course.
We will have half.
Every promise Dr. William Ruto has made so far, he has honored. He has no reason not to honor. And if for whatever reason there's a change of strategy, he'll pronounce himself. As of now, he made a commitment, he'll honor that commitment. And there will be the face of Kenya, there will be gender balance, there will be youthfulness, there will be freshness, there will be experience. It will be a combination of all that.
Yes, because some of the many messages, in fact, a lot of the viewers were sending tonight was about that. And let me, in fact, read some of them around the cabinet. You had Kentai Phyllis is one who had sent a message here saying, I hope we will not see the many politicians who are now surrounding the president and the deputy president being rewarded for the heavy campaign period. So there's concern about especially the political class, whether we'll see people, folks who haven't been elected, being told so and so now come cabinet. That means by-election here, there.
I would like to correct the prejudice and impression like politicians are bad or they are criminals. They are not. They are good people. They are politicians who have capacity to work. I'm a politician myself.
And
I don't want to rate myself, but I know I'm a serious worker. If you go to my former constituency in Madeira and ask whether I'm a guy who works hard, you'll be told I work very hard. William Ruto is a workaholic. He has passion and zeal and energy to serve, but he's a politician. Let us not criminalize politicians. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with having politicians in the cabinet. You also want people who have a connectivity with the ground. One of the issues that made the previous administration fail was lack of nexus between the cabinet secretaries and the people. Okay? Most of the technocrats who were given work had no connection with the people, so they did not know what the people want. That is why they went to touch goods belonging to the people. That is why they were evicting people during COVID in the middle of the night. You know, that is why they sent DCI to creep on the public service and make sure that it's not working, because they don't know what goes on. There's nothing wrong with appointing politicians.
So we'll have many of them in your cabinet.
I'm not sure what will happen. That decision will be made by Dr. William Ruto. But I want to say that from where I sit, there's nothing wrong with having politicians in the cabinet.
You know, what was interesting during the campaigns, you lay claim by, I remember, 50%. Then there was 30% Western. Then there was another party. So now that Mount Kenya came through, there are those who are asking, that 50%, are you now coming down and saying...
Well, I want to say that as a
50%,
as a leader of the mountain, we voted to a man for William Ruto. Will be adequately be represented in this government. If you check so far, Anne Waiguru from Kirinyaga is the chairman of the COG. Kimani Ichung'wa is the leader of the majority in the National Assembly. Kathuri Murungi is the deputy speaker of the Senate. So far, the few positions that have been available.
So you're saying this 50,
the face of the mountain is there.
You meet this 50, but still manage...
I don't want to talk about figures. What I want to say is that the inclusion of the Mount Kenya people in the Ruto government will be commensurate to their vote. That I want to give an assurance.
That would mean 50. So how do you reconcile and balance between 50 and
we don't
the
have
face
50. We didn't get
nation?
50% per se. We are on between 43%. Because there are issues around Nairobi. It's difficult to quantify Nairobi, and a bit of Kajiado. And if we look at Nairobi using some formula and Kajiado, probably we could come to 47. But I'm happy even to say 40% is good enough. And I told people, Sophia, and I even told you, we will deliver the mountain. And I told you, this son of Mau, many people belittled him. Many people thought he's a useless fellow. Many people thought that this guy had no business leadership, he should be in prison. He led the mountain.
So who delivered the mountain, you or Ruto? Didn't you already have a leg in firmly?
Myself and William Ruto, we work closely, very closely. By the way, we are good friends and we are buddies and we are family friends. Yeah, we are birds of the same feather.
All right.
And I can tell you that I really want to thank the people of the mountain, not even because of voting for William Ruto as such, but defying ethnic politics. You know, previously, we had been held in contempt. There was prejudice against the people of the mountain, that these are people who never vote for anybody else. These are people who are selfish. These are people who like using other people and dumping them. But the mountain came through, elected Dr. William Ruto to a man who is not one of their own. And actually, when the history of the end of ethnic politics in this great republic is written, the people of the mountain will have a chapter.
Okay.
And I'm asking other regions, with a lot of sincerity, I'm inviting them. Next time, vote for a plan, vote for an agenda, interrogate a leader and his plans. Don't just vote for one of your own. Because if one of your own has no plan, and then you continue complaining that you are suffering, what have you done to yourself?
So you've mentioned, the positions, for instance, would be commensurate to those, the votes they gave to William Ruto and yourself, the president. What about those who did not vote for you? They would be watching tonight and asking. There'll be
representation. Every Kenyan will be represented in this government. The government is huge. There are positions for everybody. Nobody will be left behind. And by the way, William Ruto is not the president of the people who voted for him. He's the president of Kenya. Even those who did not vote for him are his people, and they'll get services from the government because they are taxpayers. And by the way, it's not a favor, it's a right. Every taxpayer has a right to demand for services from the Ruto government.
Will you maintain and have the position of CAS in your cabinet?
I don't want to second guess my boss.
Is that a matter you've discussed?
Well, Sophia, we are 5 days old.
5 days old?
And my boss right now is somewhere in the United
President, I imagine.
My boss is somewhere in the United
Were
Kingdom.
you campaigning, not imagining you'd win at all?
We were just campaigning. We are now forming government. You do one thing at a time. They say you cross the bridge when you reach there.
When you reach there.
We did not want to form government before we are sworn in, because it's not the right thing to do. We were fighting a case in court. Some people had not given up, they were still fighting us. It is now, and just when we wanted to sit down and constitute government, then it became necessary for the president to travel out of the country. So when he comes back, I'm sure he has initiated the process of consultation. And by the way, like principal secretaries, they must be processed through the Public Service Commission.
Yes, the
applications are still going on. They are closing on 20th. That's on a Tuesday. They will take time to analyze them, shortlist, interview, and then make recommendations to the president. That will take a bit of a while. And I don't think the president wants to announce the cabinet secretaries without the principal secretaries.
So we'll be waiting for a while, 2 more weeks?
For a while, I think so. I'm not sure exact time, but I would say like 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So let the Kenyans be very, very patient. In any case, there's no vacuum. The president and his deputy are working.
Correct.
We don't have as much support as we would want.
Right.
But the two of us, we are keeping the country going.
And some of the cabinet secretaries are still there working. We see a lot of communication.
Yeah, they are, and they are coming through. The principal secretary. We have had meetings with the people from the Treasury.
Yeah.
We have had meetings with the NHIF yesterday, with the NSSF. We had meetings with the PS for housing. The government is up and running. It's only that we cannot say we have our government, the one we want, the one we have total control, the one that is having the bottom-up economic model as his model of choice. We are still working with officers from the previous administration. But once we get our team, a full team that believes in the bottom-up economic model, that believes that we need to have less and less government in people's lives and more services for the people of Kenya.
To the people of Kenya. Yeah. Let me ask you this then, as we move this along. There have been calls to commence process of removal of the now so-called Cherera 4 commissioners. So Commissioner Cherera, Wanderi Francis, Justice Nyang'aya, and Irene Masit, of course, over what transpired. Would you support such an initiative?
I don't want to get drawn into that because you cannot stop people to do what they want. That's a parliamentary process. If it ever came before the president to do what he needs to do, he'll do what he needs to do. For Dr. William Ruto and I, we are busy. Our hands are full. We have work to do. We have an economy to turn around. We have, interventions to make to bring the cost of living down. We want to focus on that, Sophia.
Okay.
But we cannot stop people on their own motion to do what they want to do. This is a free country, it's a democratic country.
The last time I interviewed you, per se, when we had the deputy presidential debate, this was one of the issues that came up. You promised in their manifesto and to form and commence a quasi-judicial inquiry into state capture within 3 months of taking over. Is this still on course? And I remember when you were speaking to that at the time, with even the examples you gave, you were very clear about the Kenyattas especially. You gave 2 examples on the banks and on the real. So is this still on course? In the next, we are now 5 days in, as you keep reminding me,
Sophia,
25 days to go for this
Sophia,
inquiry to be formed?
To start with, both of you were very unfair to me in that debate for the running mate, because you never gave me an opportunity to tell the people of Kenya what we want to do for them. You took me to issues and took too much time. Okay, it's okay to talk about integrity, but you took too much time and you denied me an opportunity to tell the people of Kenya what we are going to do for them. And I can tell you, had you given me that opportunity, the 7.2 million votes we got would have gotten 7.5.
Was that the only avenue you had to speak to the Kenyans?
It was a good avenue for people who don't come for public rallies, and there are many. There are people who don't come for public rallies. The ones who come to public rallies, we had an opportunity to engage them. I told you that time, and I repeat today, we are not discussing individuals. It's a policy direction.
Fair enough.
It's a policy intervention. Yes, we'll have a commission to look into state capture and conflict of interest, which in our view is responsible for the economic quagmire we are in, which in our view is largely responsible for the economic crisis this country is having, which we have confirmed is responsible for the poverty that the people of Kenya are undergoing. And even if we don't want to pin anybody down, we would like that so that there can be recommendations, so that in future, state capture and conflict of interest will never again impoverish a country. That is the purpose, as we are not interested in individuals. And by the way, we have no problem with our outgoing president, Uhuru Kenyatta. We wish him well in retirement. And in fact, myself, he's my buddy for 20 years. When things settle down, I'll look for him. We catch up all times. Because this was all politics. It's nothing personal. The politics are over.
Sometimes
we have won.
Those who felt like sometimes there was something there.
No, it's nothing. It's nothing personal. This was all politics. He wanted this way. I wanted this way. I've won. He has lost. We move on. And now look for him for a cup of tea. We have a chat and catch up on the good old days.
I want to get to some of the questions before we bring this to a close, because numerous questions, and I want to thank everyone who has taken time to tweet in at Sophia Wanuna this evening. And I will start. Oh my, there's so many. Okay. So there's Bernard Tong. He's asking, will you make public the SGR contract? President Uhuru promised to make it public. There's been opaqueness there. Will this administration make public the SGR?
Yes, we will. And I'm sure it will come up with the Commission of State Capture. It will be a subject of discussion. It's an interesting
But the
topic.
contract is there, so you can make it public.
What I'm saying,
Yes.
even if we don't, probably the best way to make it public is in that commission, so that Kenyans can interrogate it. It's a public document. Kenyans are entitled to know exactly what were the details of that contract.
All right. Then there's another question here from Mercy Luguda, and she's talking about conflict of interest when public officers do business with government. How will this administration deal with that? Because that's why we have a lot of corruption.
I've told you we are going to have a commission to look into conflict of interest. It is not just limited to state capture. It's even, it will cover even all that person is raising.
But
we must look at it in totality.
Part of the problem, because it cannot be everything, to that commission, is that wealth declaration is in this country, it's a mockery, to the extent of it being a mechanism that then can hold folks to account who are in public office.
Agreed.
They put these things in envelopes, they go, they're sealed, and then, so how then, and this of course through the legislators who would be meeting, that you ensure it's vibrant and ensuring there's this transparency and folks are held to account, as opposed to ticking boxes that we've done.
Agreed, and I think our legislators need to look into it. And for those of us who are open, like myself, I'll in due course be saying what I own before I became deputy president, so that nobody can follow me after. I've told you I owned this home 24 years ago. I was just somebody small there, and therefore I'd say this I owned. So I have not owned it because I'm deputy president. I will not have owned this after 5 days. I think it's a good thing for people to declare their wealth, especially wealth that has been gotten in the proper way. I think it's a good thing, but let our legislators look into it, spice it a little bit, open it up a little bit, and make it more intensive and enhance the scrutiny.
But would you, as yourself, make commitment that, because it has to also start from the top, leading by example. In the past, you have done business with state agencies. Now you are here, you're the deputy president, the issues that have been there being dealt with in court, but to come strongly so that it can be then from the very top that we will not, and it becomes policy across, if it's...
I think it's a good policy. For me, as regards Gachagua, I want to tell the people of Kenya that I will not do business with the government. I have actually handed over 1 or 2 companies to my son to continue doing what I was doing. I want to spend all my time serving the people of Kenya. The salary that I will get is enough for me. I don't need to make any more money outside that. And I have no intention at all to do any business with the government. If my sons want to do business, I've told them to do business with the private sector. I've told them, even them, not to do business with the government, because we don't want conflict of interest. We want to work with clean hands so that we are able also to restore order. There's no way you can say this is the way things will be done when you are doing the opposite, And I would like to ask all public servants, especially at our level, not to do business with the government.
But it can't be, Bwana DP. It is good you're saying you will not. It is good you're asking, but that's not enough. There needs to be a real push and work done to ensure it is not possible, it is not permissible, it is illegal.
Agreed. There was something called the Degwa Commission in 1971. If you look for that report, that is the one that allowed public servants to trade alongside government, with the government as they work. It's something that our legislators need to look at. And from where I sit, and I think where my boss sits, I think it's a position that we would support to avoid conflict of interest. Let public servants do public work and be satisfied with the salaries that they get. And if you are not satisfied, either you quit or you don't take up a job in the public sector.
Yes.
You come to the public sector knowing very well that you will not have an opportunity to trade with the government to deal with the issues of conflict of interest.
Okay, there's a message here. She told me not to mention her name. She's a police officer, and she's saying that an issue they'd want addressed, and perhaps you could speak to it. One of them is that there are police officers that have been assigned to the expressway, and they're there throughout the day at the exits and the entry points. They're not given any allowances. However, other officers like at SGR and elsewhere are given the allowances. This one's no food, nothing, no allowances. She goes on to speak about, secondly, the issue of the uniform. Since he's the deputy president, can they order the abolishment of this blue uniform and we get something better? So what do you tell this?
What I want to say is, Sophia, our public officers, our police officers have really been misused. And on the campaign trail, I gave my word to the police officers. I was a man in uniform myself, and I understand them. For 10 good years, nobody thought about them. Yet the cost of living kept on going up. And these officers live in houses, they live in squalor. It is not uncommon to find a couple, a family, living in one room, divided in the middle by a bed sheet. And I give them a commitment that within 100 days, we are going to set up a team, a review team, to review the salaries and remuneration of police officers and their terms of service holistically, so that we can deal with it. That express highway is one of the projects of state capture, and that is why those policemen have been sent there, and nobody cares about them, you know. And it's not just that one. Police officers have been misused. You know, there was a hotel, there was a depot of beer in Kratina and another one in Kagio, owned by somebody very senior in the outgoing administration, where the police were being used to arrange crates and count and take stock of the beer that has been sold and the one that has not been sold. Here in Kiserian, another home owned by a senior cabinet minister, the policemen were the ones who were plowing and you know, working in the farm. You know, that will come to an end. I want to tell our police officers, please, once we constitute a government, don't keep quiet over such abuses. You have no business being misused by anybody. And I want to tell our officers that the government that has been put in place by the people of Kenya, through the hand of God, is a caring government. We know the commitment and the level of patriotism by our police officers. They work on patrol, they go on beat. Sometimes it's raining, they don't have a risk allowance. Sometimes they are shot and killed in the course of duty.
Okay.
We don't have an allowance to take care of that. I want to assure our police officers that we are holistically looking at the entire spectrum of the workings of the police officers and the prison officers with a view of improving their terms of service. I talked about that police uniform because, you know, I'm a bottom man myself. I go, I talk to people. I am very kind to police officers because they are human beings. They are my brothers, they are my sisters. And me, I'm a down-to-earth man. So in my course of duty, I engage them. And they told me this blue uniform was forced on us and there was no public participation. You know, the new constitution, Sophia says, anything you do that affects other people, you must do public participation. You know, an uniform, because I used to wear one, is a very important attire. You must feel good in it for you to work. When, Sophia, this outfit you have, I'm sure you are feeling nice about it.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
It's very important. The officers are no exception.
True.
So when you force an uniform on them without asking them their views,
So there will
and
be
they wear it from morning to evening, and they don't
revisit
like it.
of that uniform.
They don't like it. And you see, I said, and the social media, they try to misquote me. I said it is wrong what they did. You know, Sophia, when you have a school in your neighborhood and there's a new school, the new school, when they are choosing their uniform, they never copy the uniform of the neighboring school. Okay? So that they don't look the same. I said these people who brought this blue uniform did a disservice to our PCS church, the Women's Guild, because this is their color, you know, and they should have known, this is a color that has been with the Women's Guild forever, and it's known that it belongs to them, and they love it. It's a very nice uniform, and therefore there is no need to give it to another group because there are so many other colors, you know. Oh, they twisted it. Oh, Rigathi Gachagua said, oh, the police would remove the uniform and give it to the church, you know.
So you're saying there's going to be a relook of that?
We are saying this government, led by William Ruto, is a consultative government. You saw, Sophia, something that has never happened. I had some security officers who used to guard the outgoing president were in shock that a president is sitting through for 8 hours listening to people talking yesterday. From 8 up to 5, listening to the views of what people are saying and writing down. This government is a consultative one, and police officers are no exception. We shall listen to them.
All right.
Whatever they tell us,
Yes.
whatever issues that they have, we'll address them. If they are so unhappy about the uniform and it is affecting their morale and therefore inhibiting their performance of their duties. We'll look into it. The bottom line is the era of forcing things down the throat of Kenyans, the era of forcing police officers to wear what they have not been consulted on, the era of misusing public servants, the era of dealing with people as if they are not human beings.
That's over.
That era is over.
The media in this country, and you and your boss, the president, have in the past been vocal about and spoke about the media in various instances. And there's a question here from M. Tanacha. She says, I am a young journalist from ongoing events and what I've witnessed, as I imagine you and your colleagues as well, our fellow colleagues in other media houses, are concerned about a revisit of the media by this new administration.
For the state, the media, both print and electronic, have nothing to fear. William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua have sworn to defend the Constitution. The Constitution guarantees media freedom, freedom of the press. In fact, if there are people who are going to enjoy our government, is the media. We shall not gaggle the media. We shall not interfere with media freedom. We want you people just to be more responsible. In this election, you took sides. Most of the media houses took sides against that. In fact, Sophia, William Ruto and I are president and deputy president through the hand of God. The obstacles against us, the institutions mobilized against us, including the media, is by the grace of God that today we were elected. I want to ask the media to be more responsible and to be more objective. The airwaves that are given to the TV stations, they don't belong to the media owner, they belong to the public. And any media house has a responsibility to give balanced coverage and allow the people to make informed decisions. You are aware that fake polls were created and given to the media to force a narrative. I think the media editors must be thoroughly embarrassed, because what they give as the opinion polls repeatedly and what happened in the election are totally different. We want to ask for media to be more responsible, but even if they are not, even if they are against us, we will respect their right to be against us.
It's good you're on KTN
we will respect their right. We will respect their right to air whatever they want to air. We shall not gag the media. We shall not interfere with media freedom. And we know and we appreciate that we are fighting for employment.
And
the further state employs hundreds, in fact thousands of young people, very vibrant people with a future, and we want to mentor young people.
And yet the government has in the past, in terms of the revenues that the media gets, and we saw some of that when there were congratulatory messages being put out, and there was a directive.
We didn't want what happened.
Revenue streams.
We don't have a problem. We don't have a problem
about their jobs. Yes, their jobs.
We don't have a problem with people advertising with the media, but we were against self-glorification. We didn't want to spend public money to congratulate William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua as we are hustlers.
Will we see a continuation of what we've seen with the Uhuru administration?
The Uhuru administration was using adverts to twist the media. I'm aware of a certain newspaper. They told me that if they don't run stories against us, they will not get adverts. I want today to look at you straight in the face and assure the media in Kenya that the Ruto administration will not use adverts to twist the media. The Ruto-led government, the Ruto administration, is focused on service delivery and has no time, it has no business to coerce the media to write stories, to cover stories in our favor. Just do what you need to do, but we urge you, for your own credibility, do the right thing. Some FM stations that were doing ethnic incitement in the Rift Valley, they are very embarrassed, because they took a position and the people did different. They try to tell the people, oh, you must vote this way, oh, Ruto is bad, oh, Gachagua is bad, but the people did the exact opposite. They were left with an egg on their face. So we are saying, let the media be responsible. Let them be objective.
All right.
Let them cover the stories objectively and leave the people of Kenya to make informed decisions.
And KTN News is ranked by the Reuters Institute as the most trusted news station, if you like, in Kenya. So, before we wrap up, our time is up. I want to give you closing word. Kenyans have been watching and discussed many things.
Reuters has a right to give you whatever marks they want.
Giving.
But what is important? What is important is
and
what
we have been fair.
What is important is what the people of Kenya think.
This media house has been fair.
Well, relatively, yes, you are not very bad, but to a
your
certain
closing remarks.
No, to a certain extent you are okay, but you are not very balanced. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the people of Kenya for giving William Ruto and I a chance to be their servants, to serve them with dedication and commitment. I want to give an assurance to the people of Kenya that our government will never deny them freedom, that our government will not interfere with people's rights. Our government will have less and less government in the people's lives and more services to the people of Kenya. But I urge the people of Kenya to work hard. There is no shortcut to success. It's only through hard work. Ours is to create an enabling environment. Ours is to revive the economy. But the honors of success is left to each and every individual. Finally, I want to thank the people of Mathira constituency, where my political journey started, for believing in me and giving me a chance until where I am today. I owe it to them. I have a debt of gratitude to the people of Mathira because they believed in me and supported me. You know, even when I was under siege from every corner, they say their son is a leader, let us give him a chance. I am very grateful to them, just like I'm very, very grateful to my family, Pastor Dorcas Wanjiku Rigathi, my sons Kevin Gachagua and Keith Ikino Daktari, for believing in me, praying for me, and staying with me. And of course, Dr. William Ruto, for giving me an opportunity to be his deputy, to be his principal assistant, believing in me and believing that him and I and the rest of the team can make a difference in this country by improving our people's quality of life along the way. And Sophia, thank you very much for coming. You are always welcome.
Asante sana, and Your Excellency, most sincerely to thank you for this opportunity. I like that it's music to my ears that the media under this administration, for the sake, not for ourselves, but for Kenyans, to be able to have these conversations with yourself, with the president and other government officers, because all those offices are held in trust. It's for the people of Kenya, and it's when we're able to have these conversations, and we'll keep having them because we cannot possibly discuss everything under the sun. But I most sincerely thank you, and Pastor Dorcas, your wife Rigathi, for welcoming us to your home this evening. A whole village it takes to make these productions possible. So we thank you so much for facilitating our team as well to be able to do this broadcast this evening. Asante sana, and wish you the best.
Asante.
And we'll be holding you to account.
Asante. Tuko tayari.
Kabisa. Like to hear that. And thank you at home for watching. Remember, you can find this interview much later if you just caught it halfway or towards the end on our YouTube. KTN News will have it there. But I thank you also for sending in the questions, your comments, all appreciated, the whole mixed bag. And of course for watching. On behalf of our great team that made the show possible, we appreciate your company this evening. My name is Sophia Wanuna. I wish you a blessed week ahead, and good night.
Familia nyingi zimeathirika na hata mara nyingine kupoteza wapendwa wao kutokana na aina za majiko